As always, the Minding Your Business podcast is brought to you by the Binge Podcast Network. The Binge is www.onabinge.com. Great content, great traffic flow is coming through the website. I'm very pleased with that. We've had a really good week. We've got great podcast lineups up and down the podcast roster there on the Binge. You've got the Startup Life podcast. You've got this particular podcast. You've got Let's Be Real. You've got Nothing But Buckets. You've got Just Blurting. You've got the Racially Motivated podcast. You've got the new podcast that's coming, Skills and Heels, that you've heard from with Shay Brown. And so we're continuing to grow the lineup. If you're interested in being part of the network, then you need to go to onabinge.com. Of course, as always, brought to you by Legacy Living Real Estate Partners. You need to go beyond just what you're doing today with one stream of income. You need to have multiple streams of income. If you've got multiple bills, then you need to have multiple streams of income. I never understood why people are okay having 20 bills and one income. That makes no sense. But that's how a lot of us were raised. A lot of us were raised to think you just go and you work and get one income and then match that one income up with 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 debts. Doesn't make sense. So you should be a real estate investor. You should give back to your community by helping to provide affordable housing. Well, Chet Run, I don't have the money and I don't have the credit and yeah. So we'll find every excuse for everything that when we really don't want to do something or we don't understand it, we'll find an excuse for it. So you don't need any of those things. But what you do need is about 3 to 5 hours per week. You need to have an open mind, and you need to want to do better for yourself and your family. If that's not important to you, then don't worry about it, because it's not going. I'm just going to tell you it's not going to be for you. So if the way that you're doing things now, and it may be working for you, then that's completely fine, and we want to support you in that. But if you are interested in doing something different, you've been interested in getting in real estate, you're not necessarily looking to dedicate the time to become a real estate agent, which you can certainly do. But you want to become an investor and not have to use your credit, not have to use the cash in your account. Keep that in your checking account, keep that in your savings, and then look to build on it with 3 paydays on every deal. And so we just completed, and I'll talk about this later, our training curriculum with our affiliate. And again, I'm going to share that shortly. But you need to do that, LegacyLivingRealEstatePartners.com, to learn more about how you can become an investor. When you talk about buy back the block, that's not just for the rappers to rap about. That's for us to actually do. So you can be an owner, but you're going to have to get up. You're going to have to do something different. And so how open-minded are you? We'll find out. So LegacyLivingRealEstatePartners.com. Buy a home, sell a home, live a legacy. What's up to everybody on Spreaker.com, everybody on Facebook.com? We're getting ready to get this thing moving. Episode number 94 of the Minding Your Business podcast. We're going to get into a number of different subjects. Let's make it happen.
What we do here is go back.
All right, I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, episode 94, coming to you live from Memphis, Tennessee. Today is May the 17th of 2019. So glad that y'all can be here. Kristen, what's going on? Dino, how you doing? Glad that y'all could join in. On Facebook, I did something different. I didn't tag a bunch of people. I just wanted to see how the engagement was going to be without me doing that. What's up, everybody on Spreaker, as I mentioned earlier. I had an opportunity to travel this week to the Midwest, to Nebraska, to Kansas. I want to talk about that in a little bit in Ron's rundown. So in the Ron's Rundown segment, I'll talk about that. I'll talk in a little more detail about how you can become an investor. No cash, no credit, no fluff, no BS. If you haven't learned about me yet in these now 94 episodes, you know that I'm completely outside of academics. I'm not theory. I like to share exactly what I do and what people that I do business with, what we do down to the documents that we use, what do we say, How do we get past objections? And ultimately, how do we get to the bag? And so I don't talk about it in theory. I don't upsell and all this type of stuff. We get together, we do business, and or we don't do business, and we cool, however that is. So I want to share that in Ron's rundown. But first, what we want to get into is the Binge Podcast Network is really growing. Thank you so much. Thank you for supporting the Minding Your Business podcast. My partner and I, Dominic Lawson of Owls LLC and the Startup Life podcast, we're very excited about the prospects and things that we're already doing for the Binge. And so thank you all so much. That comes from your support, and then definitely your support of this podcast as we come towards our 100th episode, which is still crazy to say that we've been doing this as long as we've been doing it. But man, I'm extremely fortunate, and I definitely appreciate you all's support as I've been doing this podcast now since August of 2017. Definitely not easy. I'm definitely tired today. I got in last night. Plane got in about 11:30. By the time I got to the house and got to bed, it was well after 1 o'clock. So I'm running on a little bit of fumes. But there's just so much going on, and I think we might have barbecue contest stuff going on downtown. Shout out to everybody that's in downtown Memphis for that as part of the Memphis in May festivities, and shout out to all of you with everything that you've got going on personally and professionally. Entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news, there's no business like minding your own. Let's get into today's topic. I want to start out talking a little bit about the United States and China. So this week, I can't remember what day it was, but the stock market, dropped some, actually, I was going to say some, actually a real good bit. And there was a lot of angst. I heard from my financial advisor, one of my financial advisors that's down in Texas, and he was telling me that there was a lot of angst amongst investors because of this whole tariff deal with the United States and President Donald Trump, and then China, where, from what I understand, it was rocking pretty good, and then all of a sudden the Chinese wanted to change the game up in the agreement. This apparently upset, naturally, President Trump, and so now President Trump has threatened to increase the tariffs that are charged. And if you're not familiar with this, that's okay, because I want to explain it to you. Tariff is essentially a form of tax that's on international trade, so on goods that are traded between countries. The tariff provides a way for whether it's sending or receiving countries to earn a revenue off opening their borders and opening some of their intellectual property in some cases and that sort of thing over to another country to have access to it, to be able to bring in their goods. And it's a necessary thing with capitalistic democracies and that sort of thing in countries over the last thousands of years. There's a trade that's existed. Frat, what's going on? How you doing, brother? So this has been going on. Josh, what's going on, my brother? How you doing, man? So this has been going on for thousands of years. And so now you've got President Trump, who is wanting to institute, because he's upset at some changes or proposed changes that the Chinese have offered up. And he's looking at, I believe it's I don't know if it's 25% or 25 basis points increase to the tariff, which would have an impact on everyday Americans for this reason. When you add any kind of tax or any kind of tariff to goods, naturally, I think it's 25% or 25 cents on that tariff, which is billions of dollars if you think of all the trade that comes through from China to America. But my point is that when that happens, that has a huge impact on all of us. I don't know if you looked at any tags or looked at any of the things that you buy, it's a good chance that a lot of it comes from China. There's a lot of goods, electronics. I could sit here and go through a whole show again, but of things that come from China to the United States that we purchase. And if the tariff on that increases, then that's going to increase the price that the Chinese sell it here in America, which is going to increase the price of the American company that is either reselling the goods or selling it directly. And ultimately, that cost gets passed down to the consumer. So again, a lot of the things that you buy, there's a lot of seafood that comes from China. Like I mentioned, electronics. Paper products. There's all kinds of things that come in from China. So this has had an impact on earnings within the Dow Jones. Now, I think it's rebounded some. I'm not sure what. I haven't looked much at the market today. I've been so busy following up with stuff from travel. But one of the best practices that I'd like for y'all to take away with this is make sure that you're keeping up with it. Make sure that you've got some level of expertise around you, particularly if you're an entrepreneur or business owner, or if you're an investor. You got to have the right people around you that can get you information. So there's information that I've been provided in regards to this, and it'll help you game plan. You just can't be at the mercy of when these things happen. You're not going to be able to just pray your way through it. You're not going to be able to just post your way through it on social media. You're not going to be able to just, like human beings like to do, when it's something that affects people on a mass level, we like to wait and see how it impacts other people. And we're like, oh, well, we take this everybody's doing it mentality. Oh, everybody's got to pay more. And everybody. And you don't need to be just lumped in with everybody. You know what I mean? It's like the turkeys that get invited to Thanksgiving dinner. There's some people, some of the turkeys get excited about that invite, but they haven't glanced at the menu. So you want to make sure you've glanced at the menu. You don't want to just be running just because everybody else is running into something, or excited because everybody's getting excited about something. Because there's some turkeys that aren't excited about Thanksgiving dinner because they've had a chance to glance at that menu. So make sure that you have the right people around you that can educate you on what's going on. I'm not sure how that's going to end. I think at the end of the day, the president can be he can be hot-headed and radical about the things that he do and say and running around and stuff. And that's been a challenge, obviously, for this country for the years that he has been president of the United States. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to sit down as leaders, and they're going to have to determine what their interests are and how they can balance those interests for win-win opportunities. So continue to watch this. It won't have the impact on the stock market on a daily basis like it did that one day. But I don't want to bore you with all the details and things that I've learned. I really just wanted to share with you kind of a high level of what was going on and the impact. Now, last week I bought Uber Technology stock from the IPO. $45 a share. I got in on that. Anytime that I get into the stock market, that's a long game for me. So I'm not watching that day to day, but I have seen where the stock price dropped. Now, if you're a marginal investor and you're operating on the very few handful of shares type thing, then you may look at it more in the extreme from day to day and say, oh, you bought it at 45 a share and now it's 41 or 42, so you're losing money. But again, the stock market's not a short-term play. A more short-term play would be investing in a business, directly, not publicly traded, but investing in, say, a startup, or certainly real estate is that much quicker. You need to invest in something else that's a quicker play if you're going to watch it as closely as some of y'all watch the stock market, with every little up and down of a stock price. It's a long term. I'm looking at Uber as something of a 5 to 10 year type of play. And so it's going to take time. What's up, Frat? How you doing? Man, thank you for joining on, man. But yeah, you got to spend a little bit of time looking at what you really want to invest in, because the stock market, it's not going to be for you show up with 3, 4, and 5 shares or something, and you worried about the price dropping $1. Listen, I got a put option on that. I'm good. I'm good. But now, what I look at, and again, full disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. I'm not an expert. I'm not the Black Warren Buffett. I'm not any of that. So I don't have anything to tell you as far as advice on a per stock basis. What I look at is of course, the financial performance, as you can have access to that. But I always look at the leadership, and I look at the moves that they make, and kind of parlay that into the thinking of the direction they want to take the company. So numbers and all that. It is at the end of the day, I look at the behavior. And so, how do you predict the behavior? Well, you can see that on the income statement balance sheet. You can see some things on the annual report. Some annual reports are fluffed and things like that. But I just like to look at the decisions that they make and what decisions have they made up to the point. Have there been changes in leadership, and why? If leadership is constantly changing in the company, then you've got to look at there's something going on there. If it's fairly stable, then there's something else going on there that could be positive. But you've got to be, looking at these things, right? And you've got to, understand the leadership of the company. That's where it goes. My guy Wright. Yeah, he said, yep, decisions and statement of cash flows. Yeah. And that all goes into the leadership, right? So that's what it is. Law, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Thanks for joining in. But yeah, that's where it goes into. So when you're evaluating a company, I look, business model. Does their business model pass the dumb test? So, if you look at Uber, they do more than just pick you up and take you there, wherever there is. There's a lot more to their business model. And I like their business model. I do have concerns about not as much their leadership, but the whole idea of what is an Uber employee? Is there an Uber employee? And how do you define that? And how do you define the resources that's provided to someone driving for Uber? In whatever capacity, not just in vehicles, but there are other lines of business as well. And then, as it's been stated, yes, their statement of cash flows, but then just the decisions that they make. Who's in leadership? What's their background? What decisions have they made in the past to try to predict what decisions they'll make in the future? And so those are the things that you do, but you got to have, it's one thing to go create an account and start buying stock, but you've got to have, some information, some expertise when you're doing that. So I recommend that you seek that out and that you do it, from there. So I'm looking forward to, Uber technologies increasing here, probably in the fairly short term, but probably more of a long-term play in 2020 as they get past some of the legalities that they've got hanging over them a little bit, and growing competition, as well in some of their line of business model areas. So, but all of this is just to say that when you're looking at and you're watching the news and you're seeing information about this tariff war, make sure that you're synthesizing that information. Make sure you got an understanding of it. Ask questions if you don't, but you can't just wait till it happens and then all of a sudden you see prices go up and then you start whining about it. You got to get involved so that, particularly as a business owner, you've got to be prepared for what's your move going to be. And that's what's happened with the market. The people that are for real in this business, they are, in some cases reacting, maybe overreacting to information. But at the end of the day, you've got to understand what your move is going to be with your business. So if you've got a store now and you're buying, whatever it is that you're buying, and it comes from China, you need to be watching what's going on. Really, you got to watch your stuff anyway. But certainly with China, you need to watch, because if your costs increase, you need to be prepared for what you're going to do and how you're going to cascade that to your customer. And if you do cascade that to your customer, does that impact the value that the customer perceives? It shouldn't if you've developed relationships. But if if your business model is transactional, you may have some concerns there. So, again, make sure that you're on top of that. All right, now, y'all. So, also this week, you had the NBA draft lottery. People have been looking forward to this for a while. The NBA, over the last couple years, has made some changes. Shout out to Adam Silver and the whole team there in New York for looking into this. I'm going to give you, I've shared with you on several episodes of the podcast my basketball background and my participation in the 2000 NBA draft, where I saw some of this that's going on today. The remnants of it, the beginning seeds of these were being planted even then. I'm always of the mindset that whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, whatever it is, I just like people that are dogs. I like people that go hard, people with chips on their shoulder, people that want to make things happen. I'm not with the prima donna stuff, the people that have first world problems and believe that they're the chosen ones and all. I'm just not with the Hollywood stuff, man. I like business people. I like sports people. I like people with a little bit of chip on their shoulder, a little bit of attitude, that go hard. Those are the people that are foxhole people that, when the chips get down and, when obstacles rise up, they rise up too. And it doesn't mean that they don't take L's. It doesn't mean they don't win some. It doesn't mean any of that. It's just you want the kind of people in your foxhole, and I'm using these military terms, but sometimes they get overplayed. But you want the kind of people. What's up, Sean? You want the kind of people that are going to be there, in the foxhole with you, man. That you not when you getting shot at, you don't look back and you see them running the other direction. So in the NBA, I don't like organizations that tank. And I've said that. And when they say tank the season, and you just think of this from a business standpoint. So this isn't just about sports and blah, 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 but just from a business standpoint, when you intentionally put out an inferior product, I don't like that. Yeah, I don't like that at all. I don't like that as a business. You just go and put out an inferior product to try to win on some other end in some lottery. That just, I don't like that. I see where it makes sense, particularly in the past, but with the changes that the NBA has made, now that it no longer makes sense. So, what you had this week is of teams who had higher percentages of opportunity to win the lottery, to get the number one pick and get access to the number one prospect in the draft, which many say is Zion Williamson. Now you had teams that, even though they had that higher percentage opportunity, they didn't win. The New Orleans Pelicans get the number one pick, so they're likely to draft Zion Williamson out of Duke. The Memphis Grizzlies got the number 2 pick. They're likely to get John Morant. The New York Knicks, who coming into the season, and shout out to head coach David Fizdale. He's a former Memphis coach, great guy. Had a chance to spend some time with him and his wife. Both beautiful people, man. He's a great coach. But they came into the season looking to put an inferior product on the court. I just can't. I can't go with that, man. And I understand from maybe Coach Fizdale's standpoint, man. He's the coach. He's got to follow whatever the organization wants to do. But they had no intention on winning and trying to be a playoff team. No intention. So they come into the season with the intention of putting an inferior product on the floor so that they can get a better lottery pick, draft a young, better prospect, and use that to parlay them into prosperity. They end up with the number 3 pick. Still a good pick, but not 1 or 2. The Lakers, so now my Lakers, last summer we pick up LeBron James. They surround him with goons and not shooters. So then what happens? Start the season very well. There's injuries, there's suspensions. LeBron gets hurt. And by the end of the year, they tanked the last, say, month of the year once they knew they were no longer going to be in the playoffs. Then you go from the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Phoenix Suns, Chicago Bulls, Atlanta Hawks, Washington Wizards, Atlanta Hawks again, Minnesota Timberwolves, Charlotte Hornets, Miami Heat. So that's the end of the draft lottery as it was won. All right, so with the changes that the NBA made, because the last couple years, when you intentionally put an inferior product, that is a punch in the gut and a slap in the face to your fan base. It's a punch in the gut and a slap in the face to the people that work in the organization, that own the organization. It's disrespectful, man. And when I played, there was never a game, and I'm using that word never. There was never a game we went into where we didn't have the full-on intention of going out to win the game. I never played for a team. I'm talking about from 4 or 5 years old to the last game I played. We never went to any game with the intention, the full-blown intention of we're going to go out here to lose the game because it gives us better odds over here. I've never done that in the business, and I've banked businesses around this country, from startups to 150, 200 years old. And successful businesses, they don't ever, I'm going to say that, still saying never, they don't ever go out with the intention of we're going to be bad on purpose. People don't do that personally. I'm going to date the woman and I'm just going to be bad on purpose. I'm going to marry the woman or I'm going to marry the man and just be bad on purpose. My intent is just to be bad. I'm going to tank my relationship. I'm going to tank my team. I'm going to tank my business. I'm going to tank. Why? I'm big on culture. Just like we talked about earlier from the stock market, when you're evaluating businesses and how leadership shapes the culture, I'm big on the culture. When you go in with a losing mentality, you shape a losing culture. And a losing culture around, like in the NBA, in sports, it trickles and it clouds the whole organization. That's why you see with the Grizzlies, what happens with bad organizations is change, definitely. So now you got new people. Out of all the change with the Grizzlies, the black coach is the one that gets canned. But that's going to have to be another podcast. So all that reorganization, the only person that loses their job is the black coach, the black head coach. But so that's what happens with losing organizations. Loser people, loser organizations, they have similar DNA. They do things like that. They tank to try to get a win here down the road. They're willing to sacrifice their soul today. And that's just not right, man. It goes against my personal principles. I don't know about y'all, but it goes against mine. Even if we suck, we go out with the intention to win every night. In business, personally, it doesn't matter. We go out with the intention to win. And so, shout out to the NBA with some of the changes. Here's my prediction for the NBA, though. I think there's still a little bit of an issue because here's what teams will adjust and do. Instead of tanking the whole season, they'll just tank the last part of it. Why? Because when they're no longer in the playoff race, so instead of tanking from the season usually starts in October, November, right? Instead of tanking, going into the season, they'll say, all right, we'll play our guys and we'll make it look like we're trying to win. And then after the trade deadline, which is normally in February of during the season, if they're not in a playoff race and they're sitting there and they're 12th in the West, or they're 11th in the East, or they're 14th in the West, whatever it is, then you'll start seeing them shut it down. So they're just going to move it and make it later. But with the percentages and the way it's broken down, it takes away a good chunk of the advantage of tanking the whole season. And I just don't believe in that. I don't believe in sitting your best players out. I don't believe in trading your best players. And, like what the Pelicans did this year with Anthony Davis was ridiculous. You got a healthy superstar guy, and you're playing him spot minutes the rest of the year because you've been looking to trade him and do all this type of stuff. The Grizzlies botched up a trade where, they got two Brookses on the team, and they can't communicate to which Brooks they gonna get. Like, come on, man. We got to stop playing. And so it goes the same way in business. It goes personally. It goes in the NBA. My personal belief, this is a Ronism. It doesn't work out. And if you look at the teams who, even in the past, who got good draft picks. So you get the good draft pick, it still doesn't work out. How many of them help you win a championship? How many of them are even still on your damn team after you draft them? You draft them, you go in the future 3, 4, 5 years. Most of them are not even on the team anymore. They've either traded them away, they've gotten hurt, they washed out. Look at the number 1 picks. When Cleveland drafted Anthony Bennett. Y'all seen Anthony Bennett? Y'all seen him? Go through. You know what I mean? Start going through these draft picks. Giannis Antetokounmpo was, the 14th, 15th pick in 2013? But I just don't believe in sports teams. I don't believe in businesses. I don't believe in people tanking. This is when I talk to people about multiple streams of income. When they don't want to do that, they're willing to tank their season. It makes no sense to have 20 bills and 1 income. Well, Ron, I don't have the time. Well, start breaking your time out into sections. What are you doing with your time? If you're on Facebook all day, you got plenty of time. It's like the people that I don't like to text, but I like commenting and liking and stuff on Facebook all day. What do you mean you don't like the tank? Or you don't like the text? You text all damn day. That's all you do. What else do? If you're posting on Facebook, what are you doing? You're texting. You're typing a text into a keyboard. That's what you're doing. But it doesn't make sense. Don't tank your season. Personally, don't tank it professionally. Don't tank it in your relationship. Don't tank it with your business. Don't let your sports team tank. You go hard. And I just like men and women with that dog in them that go hard. They got a little bit of, chip on the shoulder. They got a little bit they got that grit to them, and they want to make it happen. And they just don't sit back and just accept that struggle is all I know. And some of us are just so used to struggling. So now, what you see with the NBA draft is there's not a complete benefit to just intentionally being bad. And to me, that's a good thing. That's a good thing when you start talking about virtually anything, but especially when you're talking about whether it's sports teams or you're talking about your business. In business, there's no incentive to tanking, to just being bad, to putting an inferior product on the shelf or online or wherever else that you sell your product. It makes no sense. Yep. My guy Scott Kinney, Building Wealth, says if you're going to be a bear, be a grizzly. Yeah, definitely be a grizzly. Be careful about being in this Grizzlies organization. Let's see what they do. But you got to go hard, man. Go tough out here. And so with your business, whatever, don't look to tank. Don't look to cut corners. When you cheat the game, it doesn't work out for you when you cheat the game. So don't cheat the game. Go hard out here. Just go take a little bit of risk. You take a risk every day going to work. Most of y'all that are listening to this podcast, you're in the United States. You work in a right-to-work state. You can be fired any day, anytime for virtually whatever reason, as long as it's not a legality. You take a risk anyway. It don't matter how much you brown nose or how much you kiss up to the supervisor and all that. When they get ready to get rid of you, they can put foot to ass whenever they get ready. And ain't a damn thing too many people can do about it. As most of us aren't, that are working out here, if you're working a job, you are not union protected. A lot of you are not unionized. And then the unions aren't as strong as they used to be. So, don't tank the season. Don't be fluffy out here. And I'm glad to see, Memphis get the number 2 pick and New Orleans get the number 1. And the teams that look to tank, the Cavaliers, the Knicks, the Suns, the Bulls, towards the end, the Wizards. These are teams that are just like, they mail it in. I'm not a mail it in type of guy. I go hard. I maximize my talent by going hard. So I just wanted to be able to share that with y'all in terms of what's going on with the NBA draft lottery. So we'll see what selections teams make to improve their business and improve their product on the floor. No different than what you have to do in the real business as a business owner or an entrepreneur. You're always looking to improve the product or service that you're putting on the floor or on the court or on the field. So watch that if you're, whether you're a sports fan or not, but there's a lot of comparison contrast that you can have. All right, let's get into Ron's rundown. All right, so, man, on this week, I had a phenomenal week in the state of Nebraska and in the state of Kansas, meeting with community-focused banks and connecting them to opportunities to earn Community Reinvestment Act credit on their performance exam by protecting seniors in low to moderate income communities. And the bank gets that CRA credit by doing that, whether it's through a loan, investment, or a grant. And so I had a great week, introducing the program to some, working with some existing customers in other instances, and around the Omaha area, around the Lincoln area, there in East Nebraska. So I flew in there the night of Mother's Day, and so took care of Mama, took care of the wife, and everybody on Mother's Day this past Sunday. And then that night flew to Omaha. Then on Tuesday night, I drove down to Kansas City. So the Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Missouri area. Saw all the flooding that was going along, there in Nebraska and coming down to Iowa. It was terrible, man. I saw a Motel 6 that was halfway up in water. I saw a Wendy's where the only reason I knew it was a Wendy's is because Wendy's pigtails were sticking up on the side. I mean, hell, that was the only way that I saw that the Wendy's was even there. It was completely underwater, man. It was crazy. And all that stuff was happening like the beginning of the year. So here we are halfway through May, and it's still flooding going on. But anyway, I had some great meetings and some great takeaways, a lot of follow-ups that are going on. But I've spent some time in both areas, but I got to do some extensive time here. A little bit of downtime. I visited the World War I museum there in Kansas City, Missouri. Visited the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. Shout out to my guy OG Ronnie there. Got a chance to connect with him. Toured the American Jazz Museum, that sort of thing. So it was really cool, but along with that was meeting the banks and just the engagement of them and how they're involved in their communities, and them showing me information that they're involved in their communities, man, was just really cool, and I just love to see that. And so shout out to those banks. I'm following up with those and working with them. But if you happen to find yourself in the Midwest area, particularly Nebraska, Kansas, there's a lot going on there. They're building things. Some of the Midwestern towns are struggling. Of course, with brain drain, talked about that last week. But Kansas City, I love. It's a nice city, kind of along the lines of Memphis. It's got a lot of Memphis flavor to it. And Omaha, I've always loved. I think there's some really good things going on in that Omaha, down to Lincoln, Nebraska. So definitely something that you should consider in your business as you're looking at maybe other places to expand or other markets in which to do business. They're not huge markets there. Most of those cities there are 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in residents, but at the same time too, there's not as much competition in some areas, and so I think a lot of you could thrive in the Midwest, particularly around Nebraska and Kansas and eastern parts of those states. Now, when you get west of say Lincoln or west of Topeka, there in Kansas, it gets really rural, and you probably might find a little more struggles there trying to get into some of that rural farmland stuff. I mean, unless you're in agriculture or something like that. But other than that, it was a great week. I was well received. Shout out to everybody that was there that I had a chance to meet with. I had a nice follow-up with the bank this morning from a meeting on Monday. So we're looking to get some things really moving. But it's cool to see banks involved in low to moderate income communities because, in my opinion, that's why they really should exist. They should exist to be fiduciary partners and serve a fiduciary duty in the community, and we should hold them accountable. So I encourage all of you that if your bank is not doing anything in low to moderate income communities, or they're not able to show you where they're doing something there, let me know, because then we can work to change that. They all have CRA requirements and things like that, but you want to see them do something innovative instead of just buying securities or buying bonds in low to moderate income communities. You want to see them there with their people and there with their investment. And so I encourage you to hold your bank accountable. They got your money, they're lending your money out and doing business and things like that with your stuff. That's the basis of the banking model. So they should also be involved in the areas of town that you'd like to see them involved in with helping people. So make sure that you hold your bank accountable for that. Don't just go putting your direct deposit there and all your money and you sitting up there paying overdraft fees and all this type of stuff, and they're not doing nothing in your community. So make sure that they're doing that. Rochelle, how you doing? Thank you for joining in here on Facebook Live. So last thing that I want to share here in the rundown is this. And I mentioned Legacy Living Real Estate Partners earlier. Smart Real Estate Coach, I've had both Zach Beach and Chris Prefontaine on previous episodes. They're in the Rhode Island area doing phenomenal business with buying and selling property on terms. And we have reached an affiliate agreement that wasn't easy. It wasn't just an easy process. So shout out to them, because it wasn't just you just show up and you do this. But we now are able to provide their extensive, very detailed training on how you can be a real estate investor. And listen, again, the first thing when you say something about investor to somebody, they think, oh, it's going to take time. I've got to risk my own money and I've got to risk my credit. So I don't want to do that. Well, here's the thing. What if I told you you didn't have to risk your credit, you didn't have to risk your cash, and that you do indeed have the time to do it? All those three things are true. All right. So I went through the training myself. I bought the training. I invested in it myself, and I've gone through it. And I've had some students that have bought through me already, and they're going through it. Shout out to Lawrence Thompson. Shout out to Derek Sykes and everybody that's had an opportunity to begin going through the process. But one of the things I like about what Chris and Zach and that whole team as a family business. So it's a family business. Chris is the principal, and Zach is actually the son-in-law who's involved in the business, which is really cool. But it's a no BS, no fluff type of thing. And I've told y'all before, I'm not academic. I like to share. I only speak about things that I have an experience with, and I only like to share things that have a practicality to it, that you can go and execute on it immediately. You don't have to get an upsell. You don't have to, just worry about, okay, do they actually do deals? Chris and his team are doing $75,000 a month, in deals, not using his credit, not using his cash. You can do the same thing. So if you're interested in joining in on the team, I'm going to share a link in the show notes at the completion of this show. So in the show notes, you'll see a link. You'll be able to purchase the training. It's 10 modules. It's all video. You can start it and stop it as you need. You'll have your own login, and you'll have access to the documentation that's used to be able to buy property on terms. Many people don't understand this. What do you guys think people did to buy houses prior to the mortgage product? So keep in mind, the mortgage product is a 20th century product. It hasn't been around since the beginning of time, contrary to some people's belief. So how do you think people bought property? What do you think people did? So they bought on terms, right? They bought on exclusive rights to property to be able to operate with it and utilize it the way that they see fit. And like Chris, I've built a business model now that's based on helping to provide affordable housing, which is a issue all around this country, right? One of the ways to do that is to sort of cut out this the minutia of the traditional route to doing things. And like I said earlier, it's not for everybody. Securing the bag for some people is just a hashtag. For some people, it's just goals on social media. It's just an endless goal. It's a bottomless pit for some people. And that's fine. But I'm looking for people that want to be able to join the team. And it's not just about money. It's about providing, again, opportunities for sellers, people who are selling property, who may be struggling with it, and tenant buyers, people that don't want to perpetually rent, who want to have their rent go towards their buy so that they can eventually be in position to buy a property and buy it at the right price with the right amount of equity to position their families, because typically the property or home is the biggest asset most of us are going to own. And so you want to be positioned correctly with the right amount of equity, with property that you can feel great about and that you can be well positioned. And if you're a seller, you don't want to just be out here short selling everything and filing bankruptcy and doing all that. Trust, a lot of us have been there, right? You don't have to do that. Let us come in, let us buy your property. I want to teach you how to go in. You can go in and buy any property that you want. But you don't have to go and get $1 million line of credit. You don't have to go in and wait till you get an 800 credit score. You don't have to wait until the kids grow up. You don't have to wait till this or wait till that. You can get started right today. And the training tells you everything that you need to do. It's got recorded calls with what to say. It's got scripts. It's got the legal documentation that's been attorney prepared. So it's got everything that you need when you're done with it to feel comfortable about going out and doing a deal. That's what I did, right? So again, I'm not telling you anything that I haven't done. That's what I did. I got it. It took me about I don't know, 10, 11, 12 days to go through all the modules, and then to be able to ask questions and things like that. So, but now I'm out and I'm doing deals. And I've been in real estate for a long time. I've done wholesaling. I've bought properties with mortgages and lines of credit. I've done all that. All right. So you can do the same thing too. So I encourage you, if you're interested, email me, Ron at themybpodcast.com, and let's look to get you plugged in. The cost of the training is $997. That's it. It's one time. You get access to it for life. It's improved over time, so you get access to the improvements. There's no upsell with that. There's no volume 2 and all this type of thing. There's other opportunities for you to get more one-on-one support, of course, but this particular training, the Quantum Leap system is what it's referred to. And it's great to partner with people that are actually out here, no BS, doing the business and have been for over 25 years. These are folks that went through 08. I went through 08. So we're here. We could tell you the good, bad, and ugly that happened through that and how people rebounded from it and how they keep going. But buying deals on terms essentially makes you recession proof. And you'll learn that going through the training. So it's $997. We can break that down into 2 and 3 payments, so you don't have to feel like you got to come up with the whole $997 all at once if that's not in the cards for you at the time. We do have other options to make it more comfortable for you if that's needed. But I encourage you to become an investor. You want to buy back the block? Let's do it. You don't have to talk about it. You don't have to rap about it. You can be somebody like me and some others that can say we're actually doing it. And that's 2 different things. So I encourage you, get with me, Ron at the MYB Podcast. I love to talk with you. And we go work with the people that again want to level up beyond just saying it on social media. So it's not just a hashtag, it's not just a picture with a Snapchat filter on it. It's none of that. It's there's people that actually do stuff out here, and then there's people who are just here. So which one of those do you want to be? Is my question to you. Which one do you want to be? Like we talked about, do you want to tank your life? What's up, Ann? How you doing? Do you want to tank your life like some of these NBA teams tank their seasons to be bad on purpose? You don't have to struggle. Why struggle? You don't have to. You've got the knowledge. You got access to the information now. So let's do that. Legacy Living Real Estate Partners. So listen, thank y'all so much. This has been episode number 94. I hope you found some value in the information content. I'll be coming to you with some guests. We're lining up some different guests, again, from around the country. I had done so much of that, but I want to make sure that you're hearing from me. I don't want this podcast to be solely just about what someone else says. I want you to be able to get value from me because I'm fortunate to have experiences and things like that. I'm not a one-trick pony. I've been out here doing things for a while now, even though I'm still young and still vibrant. So I'm your host, Champeron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast, entrepreneurship, real estate, trending news. There's no business, absolutely no business like minding your own. I'm coming back with episode 95, bigger, badder, stronger. We're looking to get better. Subscribe to this podcast, share it, like it on all the major podcast platforms. And again, www.themybpodcast.com is where you can see more content, exclusive content, and you can also listen to every episode that we've ever generated. And again, we're heading closer and closer to episode number 100. Thank you to everybody on Facebook Live. Thank you to everybody on Spreaker.com. And I want you to go and think about what I've said today, but go and enjoy this great weekend. There's a lot of great weather around the country. Hopefully you're experiencing great weather. Shout out to my middle daughter, Tatum, who turns 8 years old tomorrow, which that's just ridiculous. I mean, 8 years old. Like, I remember just holding the girl, but man, whatever. You know, people grow up so fast nowadays. But girl's gonna be 8 years old tomorrow, and I'm very excited about that. So happy birthday to everybody that's had a birthday here recently, or have a birthday in the month of May. And go be great for yourself. Go be great for your community. Be great for your family. And be great just all the way around. Champ Run, the ultimate wingman to your success. The Minding Your Business Podcast.